So we're back.
We're back.
So I got a question, Raleigh. Now, so the first part that we just did, is that going to be alive?
Yes, it'll be right before this one.
And it's going to be archived also?
It'll be right below this one.
Right. So if people start watching the beginning, they're going to realize then they're going to have to go and watch the second live.
Right. Well, let's do this. We'll give them a quick update. Okay. Yeah. So here's a recap of what we said in the live that just ended in a webcam debacle. So we're talking about semaglutide again. Semaglutide, which is the weight loss drug. Semaglutide.
Like the tide that you use for your laundry.
Or like the tides rolling in from the ocean or from the beach that we're not too far from.
There you go.
Semaglutide is what we're talking about again. Now, we all know that it's been shown to have a lot of weight loss promise. People with type 2 diabetes were technically the ones it was created for. A lot of those people lost a lot of weight. So the drug company said, let's talk about it for weight loss. So they created Wegovy, which is a little bit less of a dose of it for more of the people who need it for obesity, right? Not diabetics. Now, what they're finding in those people from a story that we had is that it's really helpful for curbing addictions like alcohol and smoking and things like that. And the reason why it does it is because doctors believe that at least one of the mechanisms for how these drugs reduce alcohol drinking is by reducing the rewarding effects of alcohol or other substances, such as those related to neurotransmitters in our brain, which is mainly dopamine, the feel good, right? The feel good hormone. And these medications are likely to make alcohol and different substances less rewarding, therefore making you want to take them less. And Bob was mentioning, this is a quick recap, I told you it would be, Bob was mentioning people can still enjoy a drink, but instead of having one before dinner, a couple glasses of wine with dinner, after dinner cocktail, it's maybe one and done. And it's satisfying enough.
Yep.
So that's helping in general with addiction, which in turn helps with their weight because they're not drinking as much.
Which also helps with diabetes if you have diabetes.
There you go. Which also
helps with many other things, help you sleep better.
There you go.
Reduces your inflammation.
Now we're up to speed. So that's where we were. And basically we were talking about how, addiction is something that we've talked about a lot, right? It affects the neurotransmitters differently. One of the things we talk about is sugars, how addictive sugars are. And that's why a lot of people in America are obese and diabetic. If you look at the way the brain looks on a brain scan for someone who's addicted to chocolate, sugar, things like that, if you look at the red parts on there, and then you look at the brain of a cocaine addict, it's almost identical.
Yeah, a little worse for sugar.
A little worse. It's actually true. And so these reward centers of the brain is where this semaglutide, apparently, is helping to make those reward centers not as rewarding.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So now we're on track. So let's continue. Now.
Yeah, so in regard to the addiction aspect, which these drugs are showing to help, there's other things that people can do to help potentiate their ability to, get away from these addictions. So we've talked before about Tiny Habits and how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiny Habits was a book written by B.J. Fogg.
Yes.
And he's a renowned psychologist who he was actually commissioned by Facebook to help the owners of Facebook to create rewarding experiences with Facebook so people would use it more.
Gotcha.
And he then moved on to helping people in general with the same psychology and technology. And he wrote a book about it called Tiny Habits.
Yes.
Now there's other books that are very good about helping people with habits. Another one called Atomic Habits, which is really great. And so the gist of Tiny Habits is that people want to replace something new with an old habit, right? So, and you're trying to create a new behavior,
right? So
they talk about Tiny Habits having an acronym ABC, So if you start with the C is a celebration.
Right.
The B is the new behavior. And the A is an action. This is the simple version of it. It's an action that says, okay, this is what I am doing. Okay. And I would rather do this instead.
Right.
And it's going to create this new behavior.
Right. And we actually have done a few podcasts on this. Really, really interesting stuff. So the books, again, real quick, I just want to tell them: Tiny Habits, Atomic Habits.
Yep.
Okay. And one of the things we talk about with this is using a daily journal that helps you keep in line, right? It'll help you form the habits and stay in line with what your goal is, which is sometimes that's the hardest part.
Yes. And we've also talked about the technique of a piece of paper with 3 columns.
Right.
And in the center is what it is that you're trying to create.
Right.
Or reduce. And then in the left column is the question why.
Correct.
Why do you want to do this? It's going to help me lose weight, which will make me feel better. I'll have more energy. I'll look better, so I'll feel better about myself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And then on the right column is feelings,
right,
which is how am I going to feel when?
Right.
And as if. So you're trying to say to yourself, I'm looking out on my timeline. I was successful. I lost 20 pounds. Here's why. And here's how I feel now that I've lost this weight.
Right.
And even though those feelings have not happened in reality yet, because you're just starting, if you reward yourself with positive feelings by thinking how it's going to be, right, your mind already starts to feel better and wants to do it because it feels good.
Gotcha.
So you're tricking yourself into being more successful.
Right.
And then in that middle column, the new behavior is where you can apply the technique of your tiny habits, the ABC. And so if it's in regard to, say, it's in regard to eating less sugar. Right. Because still today, about 25% of all the calories consumed in the United States is from drinking soda pop.
Yeah.
Sugary drinks.
Yes.
So you want to make that as a goal. You're going to consume less sugary drinks. That would be a really great one. That alone, if the whole country could do that, you'd solve the amount of the health problems.
It's true. It's true.
And so what you do then is you say, all right, when is it that I'm having these sugary drinks? Is it, and usually it's a mindless thing.
Yes.
So there's a book called Mindless Eating, but there's also mindless drinking, where you're drinking sugary drinks. Why? Because you arrived at work and you're in the habit of going to the refrigerator at work and getting a can of soda pop.
Right.
And you bring it to your desk and you drink it while you're working at your desk. Then what happens at lunchtime? You go out for lunch to get a hamburger and you get a soda to go with it.
Right.
And you go home. As soon as you walk in the door, you go to the refrigerator, you open the refrigerator, and you grab some type of a sugary drink.
Yep.
And you've gotten into this habit. Now you've had 4 or 5 cans of soda,
which is a lot of sugar,
and you're very susceptible to becoming addicted to it.
Right.
And which then, therefore, you'll end up being sick over time.
Right. I mean, that's where a lot of type 2 starts at, is basically intaking more sugar than your body can utilize, right? And then after a time of continually bringing in that much sugar, you become insulin resistant, where the insulin, I'm going to try to tell this to them the way you tell it to me. So insulin is released and it pings the cell, right? It opens the cell to let sugar in to use it for energy, right? If that sugar doesn't get in there, it sits in the bloodstream, right? And then that becomes glycotoxins, and it combines or it collides with proteins.
Yes.
And it destroys the proteins, first of all, and it makes toxins when it does that, correct?
And superoxide.
Which is an inflammation causing problem. So if you eat too much sugar and you keep knocking on the door
Eventually, that's what will happen.
The door won't open after a while.
Exactly.
And that's where all the diabetes, blood sugar, A1C levels being high comes from, right?
Well, the A1C is high because you have high sugar.
Right.
Right. But the high CRP, the C-reactive protein, which is a marker for your inflammation.
Right. That one.
That is going up as a result of this glycating event that's occurring because you have too much sugar in your bloodstream.
And that leads to like blood pressure problems, kidney problems, all these different problems.
Problems with your eyes.
Yep.
Peripheral neuropathy.
Neuropathy on your arms and hands. And
heart disease.
And that's from the inflammation, right? And then the inflammation is caused by, again, the sugar creating superoxide when it sits in the blood too long.
Right.
So what the Ozempic does, or the semaglutide is its generic name, what that does, it actually causes you to eat less and take in less food, therefore less sugar. And we can all agree that soda pop is an addiction, sugar and caffeine. So that's the mindless drinking, right? You're just it's like people who smoke chain cigarettes, and then they pick up another one right after they're done. They just mindlessly smoke, right? And so those rewards that you get from that, it seems like, are also going to be diminished. So it's going to be able to help from the intake of all the sugar that's causing the inflammation, that's causing the problems for the blood pressure, diabetes, all these things. So that's why a lot of people are excited about this. And that's why a lot of people that have been using it, like Charles Barkley. Did you hear about Charles Barkley?
No.
Charles Barkley lost 65 pounds on the medicine.
Using it? Oh, yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, he was at 346 or something like that. Yeah. He's back down to 275, and his playing weight was 256. Yeah. And he's a huge dude, so
Charles was always a very large man. Even in college, we played at Auburn.
Yeah, I used to watch him when I lived in Philly. We went and saw my dad's company that he worked for had Sixers tickets.
Yeah,
and so we would go see him all the time.
Yeah, they called him the round mound of rebound. Because he led the nation in rebounding.
Yep.
And he could jump really high, even though he was heavy.
Yep.
So he was always a heavy player. He played at 260, 270.
Yeah, that's what his playing weight was, actually 260.
But he was running all the time.
Right.
So this happens with a lot of athletes. When they stop playing, they no longer are exercising as much, but they don't change their diet, so they gain weight. So we have a famous athlete that we helped who had gained lots of weight.
Yeah.
That was started using our products so that he got really well nourished and stopped eating as much food and was able to significantly change.
That you're talking about the old slam dunk champion, T. Brown.
Yep.
Yeah. He's doing great.
He was colleagues of Charles Barkley, but Charles was one of those people like Shaq that when they stopped playing, they gained a lot of weight.
Yes.
And so now they have a technique they can use. They can also use the techniques we're talking about today, like the tiny habits.
Yes.
So to make it real simple, Raleigh, this is how it would work if you want to, deploy tiny habit technology for yourself and you're addicted to drinking soda pop.
Cool. Let's run it through it.
So let's take the example of somebody coming home from work and their habit is I go to the refrigerator to grab something to eat maybe and also a soda pop.
Something, right. So I'm drinking my soda. So, I don't like it, but I'm mindlessly drinking.
Yeah, but here's where we're going to create this pattern interrupt. We're going to interrupt it before you take the soda pop out of the refrigerator. So what you're going to do is you're going to have an alternative to that. A glass bottle of cold water already flavored with lemon.
And I was going to say, what else is good that I use is the sparkling waters, the seltzer waters.
Yes.
Very, very good. And they taste good, and there's not all that sugar in there.
Right. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the ABC.
Yes.
So the A is the previous action that stimulates you to do this thing.
Like a trigger.
Right. And what you're going to do is you're going to change the behavior. You're going to make an intention that instead of drinking that soda pop, I'm going to drink this alternate that is healthy.
Right.
And you're going to notice that when you come through the door, because you've made this commitment, you've written it down on paper, that you're going to go ahead and do that. You're going to grab that new drink, close the refrigerator, go sit down, drink your drink.
Mhm.
And when you're finished, that's the new behavior. You're going to implement C, a celebration.
Correct.
So you're going to celebrate, not by going to get a soda pop, but by some type of a gesture that is you celebrating. So Kurt Gibson, this would be his celebration.
There you go.
Right? Other people will celebrate by putting their hands up in the air.
If it's Hulk Hogan, it's one of these or one of these. But
whatever it is, a celebration.
Gotcha.
Very important to celebrate, because now you're manipulating your brain chemistry that says, wow, that felt really good to change this behavior.
Right.
So now you've celebrated. Now you have to repeat it the next day and the next day and the next day. And eventually, just take all the soda pop out of your refrigerator.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's take that out of there.
Take it out of the refrigerator. And now when you come home, that's the only thing that's going to happen. Now you've changed that behavior. You have a new habit. Now you can carry that over into work.
Right.
Do it one step at a time.
Right.
Then, okay, we're going to do the same thing at work. We're going to replace the soda pop in the refrigerator with something healthy. And over time, as you keep doing this and you keep celebrating, you can break your addiction to sugary drinks.
So in a way, like what we're talking about here with the A, action, what's the action that we have to change or the trigger? What's the behavior that I'm going to replace it with? And C, being the celebration, that's exactly like this rewards part of the brain that you're tapping into.
Yeah.
But instead of making the reward less, you're replacing what you're being rewarded for, which is the better action.
Right.
And so in a way, it's a natural way. And now this takes exercise, like a lot of the time, something like this is an easy, quick fix. But for long lasting, effects, you want to work these habits into it.
You want to use it in addition to.
Right, because this you don't necessarily want to be on this forever. The Ozempic weight loss stuff.
Yeah.
You want to lose the weight and then get off the drug
slowly. And
in order to get off of it, you have to practice making your reward center change. And that's the ABCs. Yeah. The tiny habits. So yes. by combining something like maybe semaglutide with some real good behavioral techniques that'll help you keep those habits in place. So when you say you stop taking the semaglutide, the reward center wants the alcohol or the smoking again. No, you've trained your mind, even without the semaglutide, right, to do this.
Yes. Now, there's a couple other real cool techniques. You can also use tapping.
Yes, right? And you actually go to our website or our YouTube or any of our Facebook pages, and we've done shows about this, boomerboost.com. And we have a self-care section at the top under blogs and podcasts. Go to the top. You'll see at the bottom it says self-care. And there's all this information.
You also see one called emotional freedom technique.
Exactly.
Right underneath self-care. And there's one there called tapping for weight loss.
Yes.
Right. So tapping simply is, in this case, the way we teach it, tapping on your fingertips about 5 times on the side of your nail. Mm-hmm. And you're going to repeat a phrase. So in the regard, Raleigh, to this issue with soda pop in the refrigerator.
Right.
All right. Say you're having a hard time keep making this a habit.
Right.
Every other day, you're craving soda so much that you just can't get through. Right. So as you tap, you can repeat a phrase that says something like this. Even though up until now, I thought that I had to continue to go to the refrigerator and get a soda pop every day after work, I completely love and accept myself anyway. And I'm so grateful now that I realize I can choose the healthier drink, celebrate having done it, and feel like complete peace about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Right? Cross your hands over your heart and breathe in. Let your hands down and your chin down and breathe out. This is a peaceful position. Mm-hmm. Right?
It's a place of it's a position of acceptance. You're accepting the new behavior that you're trying to instill.
Right. And so this is using the emotional freedom technique to, again, potentiate your tiny habits technique with your technique with the paper with the 3 columns, with your semaglutide. And with these techniques, you're going to be able to make these changes. Right? This is really good. Now, there's another whole phenomena about addiction and weight loss also that's outlined really well in the book called Women, Food, and God.
Yes.
Really, really great book written by a renowned psychologist whose whole life's work is helping women to release weight through psychological and spiritual guidance. And she does a lot of it in retreats where people will go for a retreat. And they say that it's not only for women. It's not only about being addicted to food. It's about other addictions. And it's not religious.
Even though the word God's in it.
But it's spiritual.
It's spiritual.
So a lot of the book is the stories about what happens at the retreats. Very fascinating. And one of the things that they do in these retreats is the women will all eat in the same room. There might be 20, 30, 40 people. They're all eating in the same room. And they're eating at the instruction of the author of the book, who's emceeing the meal.
Interesting.
And it goes like this. Okay, everybody has served your meal. And now we are going to sit quietly and look at it. But we're not going to eat anything until I tell you to.
Oh, no.
So she waits a little while and people get anxious. And she's like, okay, take 1 forkful of food and put it into your mouth and chew until I tell you to swallow.
Oh, goodness.
Right? So now people are used to being addicted to food.
Right.
And they're used to gobbling their food and getting some type of pleasure from quickly eating this meal and drinking soda pop and where's dessert.
Right.
And now they're being taught to think about it and to sit with what emotions are coming up. And so the instructor walks them through it, how people are feeling and where it came from. What was it in your life that triggered this? And after the meal, they do lots of brainstorming. How was this experience? Does anybody want to share? What did it bring up for you? A lot of it is things that happen from childhood traumas.
Right.
So we come to the point now where if people want to read Women, Food, and God, it's a beautifully, beautifully written book by an extremely spiritual, heartfelt woman whose life's work is helping people. So just to be reading this book is very soothing, and you can start to make changes just from reading this book.
Yeah, it's a great book.
The other thing that goes with it really well, because this type of work within Women, Food, and God is about where did these behaviors and habits and where did the distress come from? There's a lot of people that are overeating have mild forms of mental disturbance. They have high anxiety, they have depression, they have low self-esteem, they have been traumatized at a point, and they've become addicted as a result of these things. So now we know from interviewing Hillary Russo and listening to Sue Stebbins, the author of Mind Your Head, teach us about havening and going on havening.org and watching all the videos.
Amazing stuff, man.
And we now know that people can learn to do havening. They can use it in conjunction with the Women, Food, and God book. And I know people that do this.
Interesting.
And in addition, you can use tapping for your pattern interrupts, and you can use tiny habits. And this is how you create a stack of psychological technology that gives you the very best opportunity and chance of changing your addictive behavior into something positive.
Amazing. Bob, for some reason, our camera just went out again.
All right. Well, maybe that's a signal that's what we should do, is tell people about these podcasts, because we have a podcast on every one of these things.
Yes.
Except for Women, Food, and God. You got to get the book.
Yes. And then actually, Bob, me and you were talking about doing a review on that book.
Yes.
Because we both have a copy.
So we shall.
We shall.
But if you make your way to our website, it's the easy way to do it.
I can turn that on. Here, let me put
Get
that up on the screen.
boomerboost.com.
There you go. That's showing. I got that there.
Go to where it says podcasts and blog.
Please.
Right. And you can look through and find them, or you can click the search little icon.
Looks like a magnifying glass.
Like a magnifying glass, a circle with a little line coming out of it.
Yep.
Click that and type in the search havening.
You'll find it all.
You'll find 3 separate podcasts on havening. Part 1 and part 2 of the interview with Hillary Russo, a certified havening expert, and the one that we did, which is an overview.
Kind of an intro to it.
Kind of an intro. So that's on havening. You can also find the whole series of the emotional freedom technique right there underneath the podcast and blog tab. It's at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
You can search in this little search thing again for Tiny Habits.
Yes.
Search for Tiny Habits.
Tiny Habits. We have a whole podcast on that as well.
And you'll be able to see it. So these techniques we're referring to, you can learn about if you want to learn more about Semaglutide.
Yep.
We just did a show on that on YouTube Live.
Yes. Go to our live podcast playlist live, and you will be able to see the first show we did about this. This is our update on it.
Yeah, and the easy way to find that is when you're on boomerboost.com, on the very top right, you'll see the icons for social.
Yep.
There's one that's a square with an arrow in it. That's YouTube.
Yep.
Click that. You'll land on our YouTube channel. Then click live, and you'll see all the archives of the lives we've done.
Absolutely.
So
plus all of our other podcasts.
Just last week, I believe it was, we did the first show on Semaglutide.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to find it easily if on June 1st or shortly after, right? Otherwise, you'll just scroll through until you find it.
It
has the words weight loss.
Yes.
In the title.
If you just look for the words weight loss, it will actually take you directly to that one. It was really good, actually, when we sent that out. There were a lot of people really interested, and there was a lot of people who viewed that. So we felt it was real important to go ahead and give an update, especially with this new information about how semaglutide can help with the addictive part of eating and sugars and things like that. So very good to update.
And also, Raleigh, at Boomers Forever Young, right? The company behind boomerboost.com.
Yep.
If you want to speak to us on any given day, there's a few people that are answering the phones.
Yep.
Eastern time.
We got Jim, we got Jean, we got Stephanie, we got Lucy,
and Ann.
So yeah.
Yes. And so you can call, ask for information about any of this. If you're having trouble finding something, they can help you find it. And they can also talk to you about the Boomer products, many of which help with diabetes. Many, many, many people with diabetes use our products, including Raleigh's dad.
Yes.
And he's doing really, really well with that. And so don't be afraid to call us. Once you hit boomerboost.com, you'll see our 800 number.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to give it to you guys right now. It's 1-800-861-4609. Again, 800-861-4609. And yeah, it's all US based. We've got at least 5-6 people standing around waiting for you to call. And if you have any questions or anything you want to hear talked about on our podcast, go ahead and shoot us an email to boomerboost@boomerboost.com. And we will make sure that we cover anything that you send as long as we know about it. If we don't know about it, we'll let you know too. We're pretty honest around here. So, but yeah, I think it's been about 55 minutes and our screen's still black. It doesn't look like it's coming back. I got our website QR code up there, and you can also click on that. If you guys want to visit the website, please do. And then I will put this up one more time just so everybody knows. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Our camera just went out.
Yep.
But anyway, we still have it on TikTok. So hi, everybody on TikTok. Your camera's still working over there. But unfortunately, YouTube and Facebook, all you got is a black screen and our beautiful voices. So we'll use them to say goodbye to everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
We hope you have a really, really good rest of your week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.